Good evening, everybody. My name is Charles Carter, and we're going to start the Stunt Hangar video hangout. And today is Monday, September 14th. And I'd like to talk to you guys about model aviation, building and flying. I've been asked to not talk about crashing, so we're not going to do crashing tonight. So no sense in repairing, right? Anyways, we're going to talk about what you did in your shop. If anybody has any show and tells, that would be great. Talk about what you did since last time we met. We met Friday night, had a good program. I believe we had around 22 viewers. We had some activity on the chat box. Speaking of the chat box, I'm going to have that up. I'm going to bring that back up here in just a second. But if you want to be part of this program, you can actually come in through the Stunt Hangar forum. If you're a member, it's quite easy. You just go to the At the Bench link, and then you'll see the new thread I'm going to post briefly, and that'll give you the link to get into this meeting. That way you can actually, with a mic and a camera, we can see and hear you. But if you don't want to do that or can't do that for whatever reason, you can be part of the program on the chat, the chat box on the YouTube channel side. So I do keep an eye on that so that I can make it you're part of the conversation. If you have any questions or comments, I try to. Now, mind you, sometimes there is a lot of talking going on. I can't. We might even change topics by the time I get your comment in, but I do try to do it in a timely manner. Another thing you can do to help our channel would be to share the videos with other people. Also, if you the super chat, that's down there, down toward the bottom there. There's a like a big dollar sign. It's the way you can donate to the program. That helps Sparky with the operating expenses, offsets some of them. It doesn't cover them by any stretch. And then we also have memberships where there's 3 tiers. And I'm a member. I think I'm only paying about $4.99 a month. But you would spend at Starbucks, and you're going to get a lot more than just a buzz from the caffeine, right? So, anyways, let me invite some of my friends in. I'm gonna post a link. So just give me a minute, and let's see here. I have 2 monitors, by the way. That's why if I'm looking off, it's because I have another monitor. Let's see here. Okay, and let's see here, and post. So if all goes well, I will have some company. But in the meantime, now I'm expecting Gary Sinclair because he's usually right there on the trigger, waiting for me. So come on in, Gary. I'm expecting you. But in the meantime, this weekend I did get a chance to work on I have a plane. It's called Precious Balsa. It's kind of an homage to the Reno Air Racer, Precious Metal. If you're not familiar with that, go on the internet and Google that. I'm not going to have that exact paint job, but it is kind of like going to be a yellow and gray with some white trim and black trim as well. And it started off as a Strega, but I'm modifying the Strega, and so I'm going to change the name from Strega to Precious Balsa. And this is my first build as far as a tuned pipe that I'm building. I've flown a tuned pipe plane before, but it wasn't my build. So this is my first build of a tuned pipe, and I'm really excited about it. And this weekend, I actually worked on the top block a little bit. I'm getting ready to kind of somewhat finalize that. I need to hollow it out and take away some weight. The shape is pretty close. I'm also doing something I haven't done before, and that is I'm hoping to put a scoop immediately after the spinner. I'm really looking for a unique look, and I have to work on that. I did the last week or so finish the top mold buck. If you've been paying attention to me, I have already said I had finished the bottom mold buck. Hey Gary,
Hey.
and so now I finished the top molding buck, but it's in conjunction with the actual top block near the uh, first 25% of the fuselage, and then after that it will be a shell that I'm going to mold around the muck around the mold buck that I made. So I made a little progress this weekend. I probably spent about, I don't know, 5 or so hours this weekend on the plane. I did spend some time watching Sparky. I popped into his a couple of shows. I think I popped in on Saturday and Sunday. And I got to tell you, I can't think of the last time that I did not learn something tuning into his show. It's absolutely amazing. Hey, John.
How you doing?
Hi, John.
Good, good. So I was just kind of talking about what I've been doing, and I'm just finishing up. Just hang on one second. And so I'd like to encourage everybody to come to the channel and check out Sparky's build. He's doing building a new plane, new fuselage, and which kind of coincides to where I'm at. So it's kind of neat. Unfortunately, he's built about 3 planes since the time I started mine. So him starting a new plane, kind of, I get a chance to see how to do it. So, anyways, what's going on with you guys?
Well, Charles, you might be slow, but you're thorough.
Yes, thank you. You know, that is exactly a perfect description. It means I am a little bit slow, but I'm very thorough. I'm really, I guess I shoot for perfection a little bit too much. You know, I know I love what Sparky says. He goes, "This is not, we're not building a watch. You know, it doesn't have to be to the thousands. You know, and it's just wood. We can always fix whatever mistake we make, right?"
Well, he's right about that. But then on the other side of the coin is, if you, a straight airplanes fly straight, and
Right.
and if you do like some people do, and they just kind of slap it together, and they got their incidences messed up and wrong or whatever, and you know the center of gravity in the wrong place. They're just, you know, back when I was a kid, we didn't ever bother the center of gravity. We build it, figure it out, and fly it. And if it was hard to handle, we just learned how to build that or accept that, you know.
Yes.
But in reality, for precision aerobatics, the name precision is there for a reason. And if your airplane is unable to fly it comfortably, you're never going to do very well. You'll have a rough time. Some people can rise above it, but you know they're going to have a rough time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, getting them straight. You know, one of the things that building with Gordon Delaney was he kind of impressed that on me, and we would trim out an airplane on the bench. You know, make sure, check everything. You know, some people don't like incidence meters, but I like them. They work for me.
Right.
And like Sparky says, they don't have to be to the thousands. They just have to be as close as you can get it with what you got.
Right.
And I've had airplanes go out, and I didn't even have to move my lead outs. You know, I've had others that I had problems with, but I mean, I've had them where they just flew right off the board after we did all that setup on the bench. You know.
Right.
So being thorough is if you want to be serious about it, is part of modeling, the building part of modeling that makes a difference.
Right. You know, I actually I befriended the guy who is a little bit above a tool and die maker. I mean, this guy is awesome, and in working with him, he's really increased my accuracy. You know what I expect. You know, just by watching him, and we've done some things together, and he's shown me how to just get things just so spot on that it's kind of rubbed off on me, and it's actually made it a little difficult when I purchase some things from other people, and I'm like, it's not exactly up to what I would expect sometimes.
Not up to enough, yeah.
because I've been around this guy, and he's just really increased my. So I've even invested in different tools and stuff, and yeah, it's pretty neat. I'm missing. I wish I had a lathe, and I wish I had a. I mean, not just a bench top. Not doesn't have to be a full blown, 1,000-pound unit, but just something for a bench top lathe. I'd like the Shoreline lathe, that small one. That's pretty precise, and maybe a mill, like a Shoreline mill. I don't have a lot of room, so I don't have room for a big mill or lathe. But I have a problem with justifying those purchases. They're still pretty pricey, even the small ones. I mean, because even after you buy the lathe, you still have to buy a lot of tooling, and you can spend more on tooling than you actually spent on the lathe.
Exactly. But the thing is, I've always said, and I think people will agree with it, there's three basic premises. That's the best I can do three with on my fingers here. There's
That's
three
pretty
basic
good.
premises to stunt flying. You gotta, well, let's say four. You gotta have a decent design. You gotta follow within in the direction that others have led us towards. Like I said, we're all standing on the shoulders of giants.
Right.
So you start with the basic premises, the numbers you might say, and then you learn how to build it straight and light, or as light as you can get it without breaking the bank, and then once you get it straight and it's where you can bench trim it and it flies pretty darn good off the bench. Then the next to the last thing is, of course, getting the right power to it, and the right power is consistency. You know,
Right.
if it's whether it's IC or electric. Electric is a little easier to get consistency with, but you can get consistency with IC depending on what engines you want to run. And as a person, you don't have to go to big dollar engines like the stalker, like I like. You can go with an OS 46 LA. You can't get much more consistent with an inexpensive engine than that.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah.
So,
So once you've got those handled, guess what the last thing is? Practice with the coach and practice, practice, practice with the coach.
yeah, that is a challenge, finding a coach. Isn't that right, Bill?
Yeah.
I mean, if you have no one to fly with, I mean, you're hoping to have someone to fly with, and then to have a coach is asking for a lot. By the way, let me say hi to someone on the chat. Hi, Craig. Hey, thanks for coming in. And you have a question here. What engine are you running with the tune pipe? Okay. So I'm going to use a K77 this time. Um, I'm a I'm a big fan of the Stalker 81. I really love that motor. Um,
Engine.
I haven't had a whole lot of experience with the K77. I have flown one. I had a K77 with a muffler, the same muffler that Sparky is using on his new build, that big black carbon fiber muffler. I've used that setup on the K77. Nice engine runs. Um, and I even had that same engine on a pipe, but just very small amount of flights in comparison to what I have with the Stalker. And the reason why I'm going with the K77 this time is just to save about an ounce, at least an ounce difference in weight between those two.
With the pipe?
I was just talking about just the crankcase itself. Just
Now
knowing
you got to consider the whole system, Charles.
I know, but the Stalker, I mean, for the most part, doesn't even have a pipe. But
Well, the stalker and its muffler compared to the K77 and its pipe. If you're going to run the pipe, you got to consider that as your part of your
yeah,
system.
but part of the pipe is going to go toward the back.
Well,
The
it's still
pipe is
weight
light.
your wing is carrying.
Say it again.
It's still weight your wing is carrying. It
Oh,
doesn't
I understand. I understand. I'm just thinking about as far as the CG, not so much
Well,
the weight of the whole thing.
wing loading is as important as the CG practically.
Yeah,
You know?
I forgot how much this. It's a Casminato pipe. I think it weighs less than an ounce. I mean, it's extremely light.
Uh-huh.
Um, um, Anyways, it was just I set the engine back about at least a 3/8 of an inch as well. I know the plane was designed around a Super Tiger 60, and again, my goal is to try to get this plane precious balsa 64 ounces at the maximum. I'd like to get under like 63 if possible.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my goals. And thanks, Craig, for your question. Hello, everybody. Jim and Peter and Ed,
Hey,
Bill.
how we doing, guys?
Doing
Hey,
well,
how
man.
you
How you
doing?
doing?
Doing good. Be a short night for me tonight, though. I got a early date tomorrow.
Oh, the
All
sun
right.
comes up earlier there than it does here. Or...
Well, probably.
Yeah.
I'm in Eastern Standard Time. What time zone are you in, John?
Mountain daylight savings right now.
Well, I'll be up before you then.
About an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm out here in the Pacific Coast, Jim, out here in California, Escondido.
We call it
You're-
La La Land.
You call it what?
La La
La
Land.
La Land.
La La Land? I don't know. It's I guess if I've been here since '61, so it's pretty much all I know.
California's nice. I've been to San Francisco a few times.
Yeah,
California. I grew up in California, as you well know, Charles.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I got there in 1950, what, one or two, something like that.
California's getting a little hot right now.
It's getting real hot. You don't have to. You got to have your air conditioning even on a cloudy day out there right now.
Yeah,
California today is nothing like the California of the 50s and 60s. It is so. I moved back in the 80s. You know, I was there for 2 years, and it got to the point. I realized I had to have bars on my doors and windows to keep the bad people out. And I thought, whenever I have to lock myself in a jail cell to feel safe, I don't need to live there anymore. So,
it's not all like that. I mean, I actually haven't had any problems where I live. It's been it's been pretty nice, and even I think now it must have been when I was in the fourth grade. I remember at my family's house, we actually got burglarized. But like I said, I was probably fifth or sixth grade. And it was a different neighborhood. I haven't been in the same place the whole time. This is not the home I grew up in. And that home that was burglarized is not we actually moved from there, but not because of that. But it was
yeah.
just we just moved into a better home. But that was a decent area. We lived all three times. So
When I,
it
when I got there, when I got there first, I lived in Highland Park. You know where that's at?
no, I've heard that name.
Highland Park is out by where Eagle River is, Burbank, and
Okay.
we're actually a little to the east of Burbank. Figueroa Street runs right through town. Just down a couple 8, 10, seemed like mile and a half south of Figueroa is Oliver Street, and it was an area going to grammar school. We had to travel in our own gang. You get 5 or 6 friends, and you went everywhere all the time. Otherwise, you're going to get beat up.
Okay.
And we had Occidental Boys Home, which was for the guys that were under the age of being sent to jail. You know, they were juveniles. It was a juvenile detention facility. They put them right in the same school with us, so we had a lot of problems with things going on in school. The movie Blackboard Jungle, if you ever heard of that, was based on Franklin High School, which is in Highland Park, California. So
Okay. Yeah. Not familiar with that. I was mostly in San Diego. But my uncle lived in Los Angeles, and I remember when he did never lock his doors, and that was probably the time you're talking about. My uncle never locked his doors in Los Angeles.
Well, that was then, and this is now. Believe me.
Yeah, this is now. Yeah, absolutely. A lot
I
more
mean,
people have come.
Where I live now, I don't know. I don't know where the keys are to my doors.
That's great. Wow. Yeah, I do lock my doors. So has anybody flown or anything lately?
Well, I've been
Rained
flying
here
that
last
Buster a
weekend.
lot with the OS Max 35.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing I have. And yeah, I do like flying something bigger. I'll have to admit, 60 feet of line, and you don't spin around so fast. And when you
Yeah.
go to pull up, it goes up. And
that can get a habit for me, Bill.
yeah.
And it's more stable. I mean, it just seems like a bigger plane is more stable. Is that what you've experienced too, Bill?
Oh, yeah. So I'm slowly, working like the loops, trying to come down lower and come at the same spot all the time, and doing some inverted flying and then pulling out, back up and doing kind of like a lazy 8, and just really working into it slow. But the more I fly, the more I feel like I'm actually, with the plane all the time and not, just trying to avoid hitting the ground.
Bill,
Yep.
is that an OS 35S or the 35FB?
Yes.
It's the F. Wow, that's a nice motor, Bill.
That's a good stunt motor.
I don't own one. I've flown 2 of them and different times and 2 different planes, and I really love that plane. I mean, I love that engine. I flew John Wright's tutor, the original tutor at Brodax, and he had a 35S. This is my first time using one, and I was like, wow, that thing is such a beautiful 4.2 brake. And then I flew another one briefly at VSC this year. Another beautiful 4.2 brake.
And I thought I had run it, a fair amount, to break in, but it was like, I couldn't seem to get a good needle valve setting. But then after I had run it enough to break it in, now it just runs perfect all the time. It's just night and day, once it gets where it has to be.
Bill, a little word of caution on that engine. I've got a couple of them. I run them. I love them, but they've got a weak rod in them, especially at the big end. They're not bushed well. They're not bushed at all. And if you can find somebody that if you want to keep it around for a while, first off, keep an eye on the bottom end of that crank. The crank rod, and if you can find somebody like maybe Randy or somebody like or what's his name that has a machine shop there. I want to say Todd, and that's anyway. Check with one of them, see if they've got Super Tiger made a rod that fit it perfectly, and it was bushed, I believe, on both ends. And all you have to do is drill a little hole there, a little oil hole, so it can pick up oil to the inside of the bearing, and it'll last forever. But without it, it will egg out the stock rod. Okay, so just keep an eye on it. It's a good engine, don't get me wrong, but that's a weak spot on it.
If you go on Stunt Hangar form, you might be able to find out which one. I think it's the Super Tiger 35, but I could be mistaken.
It's either 35 or 40, one of the two.
Yeah. So just ask on the forum, Bill, and find out which one it is, because it will, from my understand, it'll fit on there. You might have to ream it out just a tad, but it should go right on and be nice. Do you even ream it out?
I don't believe you have to ream it out.
Okay. All right. But it's bushed on both ends. Yeah. Hey, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
And Maggie.
Doing well.
Good. I got a little contest report from Detroit, and some goodies showed up from Australia. I'm going to share with you guys here in a little bit, but I'm going to mute my mic. I gotta make a call to Randy Smith. He's got some stuff for me that we got to work out on my order. So I want to catch him before he goes to bed tonight. But I'll be listening, and I'll come back after I finish my call with Randy.
All right. Sounds good.
Hey,
Anybody need anything?
Bill needs some information from Randy about rod for a 35S, a bush rod.
A bush rod for an OS Max 35S,
Yeah,
if he has them.
if he has them, what if he can get a hold of them? The Super Tiger made one that fit right in, you know.
Okay.
But also, one of the things, you got to drill a little hole there, and it's got to be in the right place for oil to get into that bottom end bushing.
Okay, so he wants a bush connecting rod for a Super Tiger or for a OS Max 35S.
That's right.
Okay, I'll ask him while I'm on there. I'm just going to go ahead and catch him. He messaged me just a little while ago and said he was still going to be up for a minute, so I want to catch him before he goes to bed.
All right.
Hey, Tryon.
Hello.
Hello. That's formal.
Yeah. How you guys doing?
We got an ES. Is that Ed? Oh, Eddie Sutter. What's up, Eddie?
Yeah.
I think he was here a moment ago, and then he disappeared. Now we have just the initials.
Yeah,
I'm still
in
here.
the recent past.
All right.
So something happened in the recent past is I have very little time to go practice and fly and stuff like that. So I went out flying with a buddy of mine who is he's a coach coaching other things, right? And when he's coaching those people, he's teaching them like, hey, if you have one area that you are weak at,
Right.
you just stay on that, focus on that, practice until you get your motion perfectly, right?
Right.
And if you, to the point like it becomes a part of you and stuff like that. So that's something I started to do recently, and that thing works for me because instead of flying full patterns, I just fly whatever I'm worst at, then I fly full pattern, and I find maybe something new that I'm bad at.
Right.
I'm gonna start to practice, focus on that, and fly the pattern again. So it's like you might bounce back and forth between things, you know.
Right.
But things change for me for the best, you know.
That sounds good, Tryon.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's good advice. I think he gave you. I would add, and you probably are already doing this, but try to get in one pattern before you finish the flight, just to, you know, so you get that idea of what the pattern and where it fits in the pattern, and you know, you don't forget the pattern.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. So
by the way, Tryon, what is your weak area?
horizontal 8.
Takeoff and landing.
Horizontal 8.
Horizontal 8. And what aspect of it is it that is deficient?
It's the transition from one loop to the other one.
The transition is always the problem.
Yeah. So yeah, but loops in general. So I think I flew like 200 loops yesterday.
Fantastic.
If Bob Hunt was here, he would tell you this. You got to visualize it like two nickels. Push them up toward the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty violent change from one circle to the next.
Yeah. So yeah.
You don't want to put a flat spot in there.
Yeah.
You hit that spot, turn.
Run this way, and then it just goes that way, and it's pretty violent.
So what I do just before it reaches vertical, I'm going like from here to there, but it's the movement. It's inside, boom.
Yep, it's like a pop.
Yeah,
just pop, change, and because the plane is kind of light and changes direction quickly, I get away with it, because otherwise. And what I've learned is that you cannot take your sweet little time with it, because if we make a slow transition, what happens? The plane climbs vertical, and now you end up with like vertical, you know, oval or whatever.
For the flat spot, yeah.
Yeah, you have a super fast transition over there.
But typically,
Snapping
when I'm practicing, I've been able to do a lot of flying because of the accident I had. But now that I'm getting back into it, what I'm having trouble with is my bottom. So what I do is I always build a little extra time into my electric flight. So I've got 5 or 6, 7 laps, something like that. It doesn't matter to me. I got plenty of battery. But when I start, I'll do the first 1 or 2 laps of level flight, and then I immediately go into a reverse wing over, and I'll do like 4 reverse wing overs. And also you can skip laps. In other words, if you come around and you do a really butt ugly 4-leaf clover, well, just come around and skip the lap in between and do another 4-leaf clover.
Yeah.
So when you're practicing that, that helps. And like John says, when you get towards the end of the day, though, you just want to be able to, whether you're picking just a few maneuvers, but you always want to, make sure you get a good full flight in, just like the pattern says, or you'll find yourself at a contest, doing 2 reverse wing overs or something.
Yeah. My first focused practice was on reverse wing overs. And I just flew one after another, just back to back. So he just and this friend of mine that he was looking at me, he was just really down on me, just telling me, making sure that I pull the plane straight up and climb right over the head, going on the other side perfectly down, right?
Right.
No wiggles.
No wiggles, nothing. It just turn, lock, climb, go all the way down there, just go deep, turn, lock it in, go half a lap and stuff like that. And I even tried some new stuff. I was trying to a new body position, right? So, but I didn't find it like I'm so used doing it this way that felt very weird to me. So what I was trying to do, I was trying to stop here, let the plane come around, and do my maneuver here. But then when I turn over, I have to switch my position to this side, as I come half of the turn and finish that. So
could you, just out of curiosity, have you tried turning around and facing the opposite direction? So you start your climb across your body, go on up and over, and now you can come out. Yeah, that's a problem because you got to turn to, well, never mind.
Yeah, but I'm a lefty. But
it wasn't.
Yeah, remember, I'm a lefty.
I forget. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, yeah, for right-handed people, it's pretty easy, because what if I was right-handed, I'll fly behind me a little bit. So I'll just get over there, just visualize where I'm gonna start it, just get my position as the plane comes over, and then now it's easy to just do the stuff, So, but I'm a lefty, so I'm doing kind of the same thing, but I'm flying like this over here. So as I'm getting ready, boom. And I'm not sure you saw the video when I was practicing, right?
Yeah.
It's I mean, my wing overs are pretty solid,
Well, one of the things I know that they'll really downgrade you on is when you go over the top, a lot of guys turn their body and they get a wiggle up there. And they will nail you so hard on that. I think they'll nail you harder on that than they will if you make a slightly high pull-up.
Yeah. So I did the. I'm starting to get my stuff pretty. I mean, my wingers are pretty nice, If you watch that, did you guys ever watch those videos or no?
Yeah, I watched the one where you crash into your flight box. I've seen those.
I had a couple after that. If you watch those, like full patterns.
I haven't seen those yet.
I'm not sure, Tran, but I think Bart Krufinski might be left-handed. And if you get a chance to talk to him, if he is, he might help you, be able to help you on that with some constructive ideas.
I see that. Yeah. So.
Well, it's like anything in the pattern. Anything new that you try is going to feel really funny.
Yeah.
It's like the first time I tried a hard point handle, or that I tried to. I always used to fly with a little bias, a little forward, and then everybody was saying, "Well, now you got to, try to keep your hand straight." So I tried that, and I about crashed about 3 or 4 times, but I just kept at it, and now I fly straight up and down for the most part. When I flip inverted, it's about the only time that I'll bias a little, and the reason I do that is I was told that, and it makes sense that inverted flight is a little less stable than normal flight in your level laps, and so if you bias your handle just a little bit when you're inverted, it kind of lessens the down elevator so that you're not, really jumping up and down, with very small inputs. But, a lot of the pattern is also, it just takes, none of us are perfect at it. That's why we keep practicing. But,
It's like playing golf. Nobody's made a perfect flight yet.
No.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
It's just full of commitments. It's like when you go to do a loop. If you miss the first one, you're just screwed. It's like on your horizontal 8. You come up and you make that first intersection, you're committed right there. That's it. Because if you move your hand, it's going to do something not good.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's just like I was always taught that a loop, you just pop that sucker just a hair and you just follow it around. You don't do nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Well, it's trimmed right. That's the way to do.
Yeah, and then when you come around for the outside, if you miss that center right there in that really short transition point, it's really a point, not a stretch or anything, then you're just screwed there too. You're not gonna.
You're gonna pull out high on the bottom.
Yeah, that's why it's good to work on your details, like what am I bad at? So you work at it and you learn your plane, you learn what it does and what it doesn't do. And the more you are in tune with it, the better things will get. And just, right now I'm just I'm doing a lot of stuff right now. I'm transitioning to more of a visualizing type of flying versus a looking at the plane, kind of focus on the plane. I'm focused more on the path than the plane.
Well, Ted Fancher used to always say that you should just imagine that this is your canvas and you're just out there painting, areas with it. Don't get so focused in on one little spot. Look at the whole thing, because that'll help you. It's just like with intersections. They're very difficult to do really good. I mean, it is hard to hit an intersection exactly where you started. And, you're too late, you're too early, and then that just screws everything else up afterwards. So, it's like I say, it's just, you just have to keep practicing it.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim?
At the contest in Canton, I was lucky enough to have like those electrical tall poles right downwind.
Yeah.
And man, I made a 4-leaf clover, nailed it. Just nailed it.
Well, Jim? if you have a spot where you can really do it and do like the FAA guys do and put those poles up and divide that circle into 8 segments, that's going to help you a lot. It's going to give you even though you're only measuring the horizontal stuff at level, the width of a loop is going to be just as tall as it is wide. So it gives you a reference as to where 45 is as well.
Hey, Jim? You mentioned you're having trouble, with the bias and the inverted. You mean bias? You mean by laying your hand over like that? Is that
Just a little bit, yeah. I lay it over just a little to take a little bit of that sensitivity from the down out of it.
Well, and what that also does for you is if you get into trouble, you just don't turn as fast; it automatically gives it up. Which is
right.
something that's one of the reasons most of us. I mean, I know when I was a kid, I flew that way. I'd get inverted, and my hand would go like that.
Oh yeah, I used to go way over.
Yeah. Now I had to train myself, but I talked with some of the top guys out here in the West, and they hold their handle straight up and down inverted as well.
Yeah.
And the reason they do that is that I don't know, it's part of the zen of flying stunt, I guess. But what I found was it took me a while to transition. I was laying it over about like you, about like that. When I got to there, I started paying more attention, and I had some of the same trouble you had alluded to with inverted flight, wanting to vary in height a little bit, and then I learned about down thrust on the stunt airplane and what positive things it does. But when I started using down thrust, my inverted now for me on my plane, my inverted is just as solid as my level. I don't have to fight for it. The problem with without down thrust, right side up, the nose is trying to climb all the time due to the prop. I think it's precession. When you go inverted, it's trying to go towards the ground from that.
Right.
And so when you get rid of that out of your plane's flying, it flies the same right side up and inverted with the same input, I guess is what I'd call it. So I went that way, and I recommend that it's not hard to try it on a profile to see if it works for you. I guess that's what I'm putting out to the whole group. If you got a problem, right side up and upside down with hunting and things like that, get a profile out and give yourself a degree or two of down thrust and try it there.
Well, a lot of guys also, they'll use the right thrust in a motor. Now, I haven't tried any down thrust in an electric motor yet.
It depends on which way you're spinning your prop.
Yeah, I just spin the regular way.
Okay, if you spin the regular way, you'd want about 1 to 2 degrees of down thrust. And Ted Fancher says just enough out thrust to make sure it's not in thrust.
On what? On the motor?
On the motor.
Okay, yeah. I just put 3 degrees on mine. That's it, and it's worked good.
3 degrees out thrust?
Yep.
Yep. That's plenty. That'll definitely. The other thing that happens is a lot of guys use a thinner stab or thinner airfoil elevator than the stab. The idea being that the stab blankets the airfoil for a little bit around neutral and softens it up there. And I suppose it does. But the problem you wind up in is when you try to make those intersections, you've got a little delay in your controls, and it gives you a little flat spot. And you have to anticipate it. The other fix, by going with the down thrust, I have no slop in my elevator or flaps at all. They're dead solid, and I don't hunt. It doesn't hunt. It doesn't hunt at all. It flies very true. But the other thing we used to do back when I was a kid, we noticed that airplanes, as they got older, we were flying them more, they tend to ease up on the hunting. They'd get better. They'd get smoother. And that's because the hole in the elevator horn was wearing.
Yeah.
How you get to where you can move it up and down about a quarter of an inch from, both directions, 1/8 inch up, 1/8 inch down. Some guys build that in purpose to try to get rid of the problem. Reality, they really need to try the down thrust.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying that, John. As soon as I get my plane done, I'll be singing it from the mountaintops.
I
John, I don't think having a slop in the elevator has any detrimental um any adverse effect on the way you fly it. When you set the transition from up to down, make this transition. As long as the transitions are made fast. I think anytime you see a lot of vertical between at the intersection between your horizontal eight, that's because you just make the transitions way too slow. So the plane kind of slowly stops the turn and slowly turns on the other direction. When that,
well,
and
the slowness is determined by the slop in the elevator.
Or the
I,
front.
I think your movement from up to down, if it's fast,
No, I disagree with that, Trey.
okay, all right,
I no, we're friends here. We can disagree.
no, that's fine, yeah.
Yeah. In the group I fly with,
Mhm.
we no longer do that because we found that going with the stab and elevator the same size and no slop in the elevator, the controls are solid. So when you give it a little control, it's like giving it to it faster.
Mhm.
And so you wind up making the transition faster because you don't have that dead air, or that the slop gives you dead air as well. Okay, so that's the problem you're running into, is that
I
dead
mean,
air.
I agree with you that there's a little bit of a delay because you go through the slop to the other side, right?
Right.
But regardless if you have slop, this is the way I think. Regardless if you have slop or no slop, right? If you go from up to down, it takes you the same amount of time, right? And the elevator goes from up to down in the same amount of time, regardless what you have there, slop or not. Okay, that's the dilemma that I have here.
Well, that's okay. We'll just have to agree to disagree because I don't agree
No,
with
no,
it. I've
yeah,
seen it occur. I've seen
I
it occur, and if you've got slop, you've got to overcome the slop. Whether that is a 1 degree of your turn on your horn on your handle, or 2 degrees in either direction, that's movement that you have to make before you actually get positive or negative movement on the elevator.
yeah, no, and I agree with you, but I think there will be more noticeable, like in when you try to correct the level of flight, like small corrections in like when you climb overhead or do a square, or you have those flats and you want to fine tune a little bit here and there, and you have to deal with like this slapping kind of guy hit this end or hit the other end a little bit, and
Yeah.
you have that neutral, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
I understand where you're looking at it from, and I'm just saying that in the people that I fly with, we've determined that any slop in the control system is looking for problems, whether it's problems at the intersections or problems in tracking and level flight or in other areas. There's problems that are inherent due to that slight delay in getting the motion that you want out of your elevator. Your flaps will move. What does that do? With the elevator not moving, it points. If you give it up, it's pointing your nose down. And now you have to overcome more of that. Instead of them both occurring at the same time, one of them is the elevator is overcoming the nose down as it's being applied. If you got the slop in there, you get the nose down before the elevator comes into play to correct it. So you get they're small, they're minor, but if they can get ahead of you, if they will, and when they get ahead of you, they are going to cause a problem with your pattern.
okay.
Takes the precision out of the
Yeah,
hand.
yeah. It's a fix for people that we did in the 50s and the 60s and even the 70s. But things are such with modern stunt ships. One of the things that has improved since then is the control systems. They're much stronger. They're much more accurate, and they work better.
Yeah. Okay.
Kind of sounds like exponential in RC.
Well, yeah, though there's exponential in belt cranks too. There's
Well, I was wondering about that.
yeah, there's one invention called the Expo crank, which is one direction that a man developed for exponential control, and then there's Iger Berger's situation where he's actually driving a subunit off behind the trailing edge that is actually controlling the flap. And so
Billy's too. It drives a little deal with a ball bearing and stuff. Chris Rudd runs that his airplanes.
yeah, so it is there.
Tryons that is infinitely adjustable with Expo and stuff.
Well, Tryon is running that type of a situation like Iger Berger runs. Is that not right, Tryon?
Actually, it's opposite.
Is it opposite?
Completely opposite.
But it's the same general idea of being behind the hinge line. It's just
No, because the way my ball bearing is placed on a arm, it's actually mine is exponential. Igor's is logarithmic.
Okay, so yours is just going the full opposite direction from Igor's.
Exactly.
And it's working good for you.
I think it works beautiful. The level flight, it's effortless. The loops are effortless, and when I ask the plane to turn, it turns.
Right.
But it's just two different philosophies, of design, of aerodynamic design to start with. So, because of that, I think my plane has a lot easier time turning than anything else. So it doesn't require a whole lot of input for the turn.
What about the Yashenko belt crank? Have you seen one of those? It's curved.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a straight arm. It has a curved arm that comes down. Have you ever looked at one of those?
Oh, I think I've seen them. Yes, and they're just I think they use that to lock the neutral a little bit better.
Okay.
So when you come out and you neutralize the maneuver, it's like a how can I say it? It's imagine you have
over-centered. It's over-centered.
Yeah.
Is it over-centered? Put one of those in his plane.
Nah, let me. I got one on the shop. I'll be back in a minute. I'll show you.
He put something in it. Looks like
yeah. Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Who was looking for the 35S Conrad? Was that you?
Yeah.
All right. So Randy does not make those anymore. He thinks he may have one somewhere. He's going to look. But what he does have is he's got ABC piston and liners made up with a connecting rod on them. But he does not have replacement, just Conrods.
Uh-huh.
So I think the best thing for you to do is just call Randy. Because he said he has tons of parts for OS 35Ss, used parts, new parts. But just off the top of his head, that bush connecting rod that John was talking about, Randy no longer makes that and does not have any. So the best thing would be get on Stunt Hangar, go down to Aero Products. Randy's telephone number is right there in Aero Products, and just call him directly, and you can sort out with him what he has and what might work for you. Okay?
Okay.
That's the best thing to do.
Well, and Mike, congratulations to Sammy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did good, man.
Yeah.
He beat all them guys, didn't he?
He did well in slow combat. He did in Nelson 36. He sure did, man. And that's the first time he flew the event. He'd never flown the event before. So
he's got
105 mile an hour Nelson 36 combat, and he kicked ass, man. He did good.
Holy smokes!
That's awesome.
He's got a killer instinct.
Yeah, and he ended up taking third in speed limit. I got skunked in both my events, half A and speed limit. Actually, it's a funny story. Sam wasn't going to fly slow. I was going to fly Nelson slow. and he got a little. He was a little upset that he was done flying after half A. He wanted to fly more, but we only had one airplane for slow combat. I didn't have other stuff set up for him, so he wasn't even going to fly the event. He was kind of moping around, and I could tell it was bothering him. And I'm like, "What's wrong?" And he's like, "Well, I'm done. I've flown 2 events and I'm done, and you're going to get to fly slow." And I'm like, I said, "All right, pilot change, substitution." And I went and asked, I said, "Are you guys okay if Sam flies for me instead of me flying?" And they were like, "Yeah, put the kid in." And he went in and he won the damn thing, man.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, yeah, he did good. And then,
That's the last time they'll say that.
yeah. Right? I know.
Got those Jedi reflexes.
And then
Needs to be a pod racer.
we finished up all the combat events for the day, and everybody was just kind of hanging out. And I took the jet with me down there, and I went over and I flew the jet a couple of times, and Paulie Smith flew it. Ed Breeze flew it, and Sam was like, "Can I try it?" Because we were going to do it at the Nats, but it just never panned out for him. And I was like, "Sure." So I helped him get it off the ground. They started it up for him, and I helped him, with the first quarter lap and handed him the handle. And then I sat on my butt, and he flew the Dynajet 2 times. Put up 2
Very good
solo on a Dynajet, man. It was crazy, man. He was leaning back like this, man.
Yeah, 45-degree angle.
Yeah,
I saw the picture with it, and he's sitting like that.
Yeah, but he held on to it, and he didn't fall down. So he had 2 successful flights on the Pulse Jet, and
What kind of speed you get on that?
it's like a 120. It's just a sport jet. It's not super fast, but it does pull like a horse, man. I mean, because the airplane weighs, I don't even know what it weighs, but it's a bunch, man. I mean, I don't know. It's probably like 4 pounds, man. With the motor and everything, and because it's all hardwood, the fuselage is all hardwood, the wings all hardwood. It weighs a ton, and it's going 120. So, I mean, I think it pulls about 20 or 25 pounds, actually. That's what it pulls as fast as a Nelson fast combat plane, which ain't no slouch, man. I mean, you're hanging on for sure. But he did great with it, and we had a good time. Then he got mad at me on our way home at Dayton yesterday. We stopped in at Dayton. They were having a speed contest there. TJ and those guys, and Bob Haywood, and oh God, all the speed guys were there. Sparky was there. I ran into Sparky and John Jordan there. They were.
Yeah, I heard him say that on the build one Sunday or Saturday. He talked about he saw you, but he was leaving.
Yeah, so we left Detroit about 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, and we got to Dayton about 11. And we spent, I don't know, about 2 hours just hanging out, watching them fly speed stuff. And Sam was like, because TJ goes, "Well, there's another circle up there not being used. If you guys just want to fart around, if you want to go fly something, go." And Sam, he was bugging me. He's like, "Let's get the jet out, Dad. Let's get the jet out. Let's get the jet out." And I'm like, "Oh, geez, give me a break, man." I was tired driving and still had 400 miles to drive home. I'm like, "We're not dragging anything out." But yeah, he was chirping at me a little bit. He's like, "Dad, we're here. We got the jet. We could go fly it up there."
Yeah.
Well, the main reason I didn't want to do it was they were having a contest, and I would have needed like 2 guys to go help me do it to help Sam fly. I didn't want to pull anyone away from their, contest flights to go do that. Although I'm sure people would have volunteered to do it, but I just didn't want to be in the way, So, but he's addicted to jets now. So,
nah.
Now, what's the name of that contest? Was it Speed Cash or something? Is there money involved?
Dayton Buzzards Cold Cash Speed Bash.
Is there any cash involved? Is there any?
I think it is. I think it's a money meet, man. I think it is. I think it's a money meet. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
The idea of making money in control line is
well, that's dude, the bladder grabber in Washington every August. That's fast combat. That's $1,000 first prize plus a brand new Nelson.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, that's
$1,000
nice.
for first place, and then a Nelson, and then second and third place get Nelsons too. And then
Do you
half A combat is $500.
Do you know what plane
Wow.
won the first bladder grabber?
If you tell me a voodoo, I'm going to throw up, man.
It's not. It was Gordon Delaney's Challenger
The Challenger, okay,
with a foam wing.
with a foam wing, okay.
Wasn't it last year that they had that cash stunt deal there in Florida?
King Orange.
Yeah.
$1,000 took first, and
Hmm.
Yeah.
That was
500.
last year.
What's that?
That was last year.
Last year, yeah. Not this
Yeah.
year.
last year, yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, there's no
Yeah,
cash this year, Jim?
No cash this year.
Oh, we're not coming, man. Forget that. I'm not coming.
Yeah, I know you're coming, man. You're hitting Louisiana, and then the next weekend you're going to be down there in Florida to see us.
We'll be there. We'll be there.
Hey, you guys want to see this Yashenko bell
I
crank?
want to see what you're talking about. Yeah.
You're
I don't
gonna
know
give it to me for free? You're gonna give it to me for free, Jim?
It's a self-centering bell crank.
Yeah, self-centering.
Yep.
It's quite narrow, and it's just a weird shape. You
Is that
know?
aluminum?
It's off center from the center post.
Yes.
It's off center to the outer ones, and that tends to center it easier than
I don't
straight
see
out.
what you're talking about. What do you mean off center? What are you talking about?
Well, if you draw a line.
See where these holes are?
Yeah,
These holes
right.
compared to this hole?
Or it's below it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
the arms are below.
Okay.
Yeah, that's self-centering.
Yeah.
Self-centered just because it's lower. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, how
So that's-
far are those holes apart? That 4 inches or what?
Yeah, that's 4-inch bell crank there. And
Six,
it's
Six sells a plastic, their own version of a self-centering, which is different than that. I was thought you was reaching for one there for a minute there, Jim. Somewhere around I've
Is that
got.
made of aluminum, Jim?
yeah, it's aluminum.
Oh, okay. With a bearing in it? Does that have a bearing?
Well, it's kind of hard to tell, but I think all it is a bushing
Oh, okay.
here in the center. I think that's
Right.
just a piece of some kind of black bushing. They have a bushing here, and then these are metal out here on the end for your eyelets.
Yeah, so you
Okay.
don't eat. So you're not gonna chew through the aluminum in time.
Right.
So there's like
Right.
some hard points, and the other one's just bearing surface. Probably some Delrin or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
So, what does the self-centering aspect do for a pilot or plane?
Well, it just comes back to neutral more easily.
They claim it wants to stay at neutral a little easier too when you're flying level. You can overpower it quite easily, but you know
Mhm.
it just tends to want to stay in a neutral position with the arms in the same relative position to the pivot.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. I put in a I put in a chat box a link to my video.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I see it.
So have you
Hey,
tried them rags out yet, Jim, for dusting?
I haven't tried one yet, but I checked them out. They're pretty cool. It's kind of like a microfiber towel. It's very fine.
With a
And-
treatment on it.
What's that?
Yeah, it's like a microfiber with a treatment, some kind of a treatment.
Yeah, it's got. You can tell there's a little something on it, but not much. Well, when I get done fixing my garage up, I'll send you some surgical blue, and that's the exact opposite. That stuff is just like sticky, gooey the first time you use it. But after that, after you do it a couple times, you can use the rag. It's like a cheesecloth, and it really does work really good. It gets
Okay.
where it's not grabby, but it's still sucking stuff up. They use it in hospitals a lot. The surgical.
What's it called again, Jim?
It's surgical blue.
Surgical blue. I'm making note of that.
Hey, hang on a sec. I'll be right back again.
All right, Jim.
Hey, Peter.
Yeah.
Hey, did you get that email I sent you with the .dwg file in it, the CAD drawing?
You mean this one?
That would be it. Don't get us banned now.
Yep, I do have that.
All right, cool. All right, I'll be back in a second.
All righty. Hey,
Mike, I really appreciate you getting video of those contests. I know when you're at a contest, there's so much to do, you know, to get in pictures and video is really tough.
Yeah, you ever notice how there's never any of me flying?
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
It's so if me or Sam isn't flying, I usually get the whole match, you know, even from the start, the pit guy starting. If Sam is flying, I start his plane, then start videoing, so his is already going, and then there's never any of me flying a match.
You need to have Sam on the phone.
that's what I'm thinking. Teach Sam how to use the camera.
He can fly 150-mile-an-hour stunt plane or big combat plane. He can operate a phone.
Well, Sam is pitting for me these days, so after I start, he launches me, and then if I crash, he's running over with the pit box and grabbing the airplane and helping me restart. So he's, you know, I don't want to throw too much at him because then he's got the phone, and if he has to stop to come get me when I wreck or something like that, but it's no big deal. I don't mind, you know. I try to shoot as much video as I can when we're at these contests, just to.
This just came in the mail today.
What is that?
That is the concourse trophy for King Orange.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah, it weighs a ton.
So which plane did you win that for?
Whoever wins this year's KOI concourse event.
That's the trophy for 2020, Charles.
Oh, okay. I thought he might have won it for 2019.
No, Arrestes won it last year. We had a real nice crystal eagle that we gave away last year.
Yeah, well, I won't be in the running for that, Jim. I'll be flying without appearance points this year. So.
Well, everybody flies without appearance points.
Oh, that's concourse. Yeah, I got you. That's
concourse. Yeah.
That's choice.
I mean, you can bring your airplane. We'll be happy to judge it and give you some points.
Maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah, right.
Mine is 4 or 5 system.
Yeah.
We kind of give you bonus points depending on how it was actually constructed.
Okay.
The maximum points that you can get is if you drew the plans, you got all the ribs cut out, whether it's laser cut or however, and then you assembled it from your drawings. That gets you the max points. And then every step of prefabrication along the way, you get a little bit less. It's in the KOI flyer about the concourse. But we'll have trophies first through third. Next year we're hoping to have the cash again. But with the COVID-19, it's pretty hard to raise sponsor money, and we can't have the Civil Air Patrol or the Boy Scouts. You know, they can't come out there and put their little donation stuff up and all that. So we just decided we'd do trophies this year.
Okay. So Jim, to get maximum points, then would one have to build his own wheels and bell crank?
No, you don't have to do that.
Bell cranks?
No, we allow fabrication. Let me get to it, John, and I'll tell you exactly how it goes. Control line, contest, upcoming events, KOI. It's a lot like the AMA. It's just a little bit more like what they used to do when I was a kid. That's all. That's the only difference.
Well, Jim finds that. Bill, I'm glad you like the videos, and I'll keep them coming as much as I can whenever I can. I always like to see videos of contests too, and not a lot of people ever take the time to do that. So it's always appreciated.
Yeah.
You know.
I definitely watch all of them, and I really enjoy watching Sam kicking butt.
Well, and like Bill said, that is an event that is definitely pleasing for spectators.
Yeah.
Spectators love it. So I'll
Yeah.
shoot the video at KOI and down in Arkansas and down in New Orleans too. You know, if I'm just standing around and I happen to have my phone in my hand, there's no reason not to do it. You know.
Well, when you take pictures, make sure you send them to me, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Because
Mike?
I'll be doing some judging too, so I won't be able to do all the photos.
Okay.
I'll have my big drone there. We'll get some stuff, and but I kind of get other people to help me out.
Sure. I'll send you whatever I happen to take.
All right.
So, Mike, one thing you want to do before you go to Louisiana is learn how to say New Orleans.
New Orleans.
I already know how. New Orleans.
That way you won't be mistaken. Well, you'll still be known as an outsider, but you won't sound as bad like Quentin.
Well, I'm still trying to teach all these hillbillies down here to say Detroit. For 18 years, I've been down here trying to teach these hillbillies to say Detroit. Oh, I've been to Detroit. I've been up through Detroit. No, it's just Detroit.
Then there's the mispronunciation of Illinois to Illinois.
Yeah. Or you want to make a Kentuckian mad, say Louisville.
Louisville.
It's the same thing as New Orleans. You said Louisville.
Yeah.
Louisville. How about Maryland?
Oh, gee.
My brother lives there, and that's what he calls it. He calls it Maryland on purpose because
Well, that's what it was originally called.
He hates it.
Because it was named after Queen Mary.
Right.
It was Maryland.
Wow, interesting.
You know, and because it sounds so stupid, people say it different. I mean, you want to live in a state named Maryland.
Jim, you got those rules pulled up?
Yeah, I got them right here.
Go ahead, buddy.
What we do is it's a lot like the Nats. You can go, half points, 1 point, whatever. But basically, we divide the concourse scoring up into several categories. And we give bonus points. The concourse scoring itself, we score 1 to 10 for the aircraft fit. In other words, that's going to be tight joints, hinges, neatness, that kind of stuff. Yes. We give 4 points for aircraft design, and that can be part of the color scheme. It can be whatever. It's just, do you like the way this model looks? And then we give 1 to 10 points for the aircraft finish. So if you have flaws, tape lines, it's not real smooth, you're going to score lower. And then as far as the kind of like the builder of the model part of it, we give 10 bonus points if you assemble it from scratch using plans. That's pretty much it. All right. So how, they can be your plans, they can be somebody else's plans. And it's just assembled from scratch. All right. You get 8 bonus points if you assemble it using plans from a kit, because there's some of that work that's done for you in a kit. There's plenty of guys out there that draw their own plans, and they cut every piece of balsa for the ribs and everything else. Like, that's what I did on my airplane. So that's a little more involved than just having a rib laser cut. But we're just asking, it's kind of the honor system. Then if you have a prefabricated component, you didn't build the wing, you bought the wing, or you didn't build the fuselage, you bought the fuselage, it's still kind of the same way. We give you 6 bonus points if you did it that way. We give you 4 bonus points if you assembled from a ready to cover or finish model. And then the only way you can get 0 is if you bought the airplane. You know, that's pretty much it.
So Jim,
So I'm looking good, right?
You're looking good.
so Jim,
I don't know if
I have a question here.
you're- okay.
I won't be there, so this is just for my information. Okay.
Yeah.
One of my classic planes I fly is a Jack Sheik's Torino, which is a dual twin boom classic I-beam wing
Yeah.
ship. Okay.
I'm familiar.
All right. Well,
Jack
I
used
didn't
to
like the
live
plans
on
in
this
the magazine, so I redid the plans in CAD and redrew the plans and checked with Jack on a few changes that he had made that weren't in the plans as published. And so anyway, I built it off those plans. Now, since it wasn't my design,
Doesn't have to be your design, John.
it's just the fact that I did the plans.
But you used the plans and you built it from scratch.
Okay, so there's no benefit then if you use your own design and drew your own plans.
Not really. I mean, it's a good thing to tell the judges.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, that's my design, and I cut every rib from scratch.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to hurt you
with a butter knife.
With a butter knife, yeah.
I tell you what, even when I build from plans, it's my own design.
Yeah.
Because when I get done with it, it's not exactly the same as the plans.
No, they usually aren't. You know, so so that's just how we did it. We wanted to award people that, because at the Nats, pretty much if you didn't build it, you don't get to fly.
Yeah.
In junior, senior, or open, you have to do it. So we wanted to, we're out here in the neck of the woods so darn far that we don't care. We actually had several Yashenko planes show up last year to fly, and they got 0 bonus points, for the concourse. They were beautiful planes, so they got judged the 1 to 10 for aircraft fit and the 4, but it doesn't help you if you don't get any bonus points.
Well, I think it's a pretty good system you got going there. I'm sure you get it refined as you go about, but it's pretty darn good right from the get-go.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah. It wasn't, believe it or not, it was really hard to, I don't think there was but like 1 point separating the top 2 guys, Orestes and Gene Martin. And the only reason Gene didn't win is this plane was, I think he said it was 9 years old, and it's an internal combustion, and he had some fuel that came out of one of his tank lines, and it had destroyed the finish underneath, and so he had patched it up just in one little spot. But Orestes didn't have anything like that. His was pristine. So that's actually what won it for Orestes. Orestes won some money last year. He got $500 for the concourse, and he got $1,000 for winning expert. And he got the perpetual trophy, and he got the concourse trophy. And thank God that's the only events he flew.
Hey, look what I got. I didn't even know they did it.
Let me click on you, Steve. Hang on. Oh, club what? Club officer?
Yeah. I didn't know they gave out pins like that.
Nice.
From the AMA.
So what's with the blue flames?
Your club? Or
it was for RC club.
I'm sure the club just bought them from the
I haven't flown RC in I don't know how many years, but I still stay a member just so they can keep their clubs. But I do that all the time. So I think they made me an officer just because I just pay and never go.
That must be a relatively new thing. I never received anything like that.
Yeah, I never have either. And Hayden, a buddy of mine, he's like, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, you're an officer," and he gave me the pin. But I think it's just because I help him keep the field.
They just had them special made up for you.
Yeah, no, it wasn't specially made up for me, but I thought it was kind of neat. I didn't know they ever did. I don't know what the blue flame is, but
That's the AMA logo, man. You ever looked at the wings? What's in between the wings? It's the blue flame.
oh, okay.
Heck, I
Learn
thought
something new every day.
Kind of like your trophy you got there.
Yeah, it is a little bit like that.
If anybody flies RC anymore, Tower's got a real good deal on a plane they call the Sport for $104. We're gonna put floats on it and stuff like that. But
Yeah, pretty much the only RC I still fly is right down the road from me. We got a gymnasium. Of course, it's been closed for a year. It's a huge gymnasium, brand new county facility, and we get to go in there and fly the little micro indoor flyers. So we do a lot of 3D flying in there and stuff like that.
yeah,
So,
we got a skating rink here that has the real high ceilings in it.
yeah,
And
the skating rink would be good.
and they fly in there in the skating rink. But yeah, it ended early last year, but I don't know if they'll even be able to do it this year or not. But
Well, they still haven't opened up this center yet, and it's been, quite a while now, and it doesn't look like they're opening anytime soon. The RC club where we have our control line circle, they can't have any events. We ran some events there in the past years, the Stunt Fun down there, but that's just even too far. That's all the way to Tampa. The least KOI is in Live Oak, so we're able to draw a little more there. And MCRC can't have Jim. I mean, we used to get Jim Lee coming in, but that's just because he has relatives in the area. So he would plan his visit to his relative around the contest, and he'd come out and fly with us every year. So, but it's just hard, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, and you have a hard time attracting people. So that's really what caused us to even consider offering money for stunt, is to try to get a few more people to show up.
well, Florida, I mean, that's why I always went down in the winter and shot the part of the chain shoot there for Trap in Florida, because I mean they always had sponsorship and the best trophies, and hell, they give away shotguns and all that kind of stuff down there. I don't know, but Tampa was really that's where the big part of the chain shoot started every year, was there in Tampa.
Right.
But I don't know if they're even going to have that this year. They can shoot outside for a contest or whatever.
Well, we're pretty sure we can have the KOI just simply because it's private property. It's all these people own light aircraft, and they all have hangars in their backyard and all that kind of stuff. So unless the governor or somebody like that shuts everything down, we should be able to have KOI. And it would just be taking extra precautions. Last year they have a real nice little clubhouse, and we all got to go in there and eat, and we had barbecue, and we gave away all the trophies in there. So there's none of that this year. It was a packed house last year, so we're not doing that. So everything pretty much has to be outside. The flyer tells people about it, and I went to Canton, and everybody was pretty good about it there. Everybody tried to social distance a little bit, and
basically, you don't want to go home with anything that you didn't bring with you.
that's right.
Right.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah,
we don't really want you to come down if you think you got something either.
Yeah.
that's like where I'm an officer. That's on a private field, and the old guy that I don't know runs it or whatever, he lets us fly there every year for $110 a year.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's cheap, and they mow it, but we have to remow it just because their great big old tires go through that grass that's that long, and
Yeah.
they don't.
Big old giant clumps and
It's bumpy and everything else. I mean, it's not a real manicured field and stuff, but the air is the same once we take off.
King Orange will have some nice fields. Ron Waldron lives up there, and he's got a whole mowing crew, man. They start mowing like a month before the contest starts, and that thing will be nice and low, and you really shouldn't have we didn't have any trouble with anybody taking off last year or anything like that. Our biggest issue last year, which is why we changed the date, is that we had a love bug invasion. I mean, a bad love bug invasion. Anybody know what a love bug is?
Yeah.
No, I don't know what a love bug is at all.
You don't want to.
You don't want to. That's a fact.
It's a bug that makes love.
Yeah.
One night,
It ruins the paint on your car. Oh, it was horrible, man. They were everywhere. They were crawling down my. I had a drink cup, with a straw in it. They were crawling down the straw.
Wow.
They were everywhere. Gosh, and they mate, and so you got one stuck on the end of the other one, and they when you're driving in them, you hit a swarm of them. They just get everywhere, and if you don't get them off fairly soon, they'll eat the paint right off your car.
Wow.
I went from my uncle's house to my aunt's house, which is right there by where the King Orange is being held. And it's probably a 10-minute ride on my motorcycle. And I had to stop twice to scrape the windshield. Wow. So I could see through it. That's
I thought you were going to say you had to stop twice to pick the love bugs out of your teeth.
No, I used my credit card or my debit card and just scraped the pieces off my windshield. I couldn't see nothing. And then I'm trying to peek around, and then they're whacking me in my face shield and everything else. And it probably took me about 3 hours the next day to get them damn things off the motorcycle because they dried on there.
Yeah, they're hard to get off, and they will eat your paint.
My aunt had some old towels, and I wetted them down and just covered the whole motorcycle with wet towels to soften them and stuff, and kept up. Yeah. But hell, when I got home, I still was picking love bugs out of shit. And when they
you talk about bugs like that, I got hit right here in the throat by a June bug one time running about 70 on the interstate. It felt like I got shot.
Yeah.
Bugs, they're no joke when you're on a motorcycle.
When I lived in Wisconsin, we got a June bug. What do they call it when they swarm like mad? Anyway, but we got one of those, and they were so thick. You drive down the road would be slippery. You know, because they were so darn thick. You drive over them, they just turn to juice, and you'd lose traction.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, what's it called here in Michigan with that damn some kind of fly outbreak in the UP?
The mayflies.
Mayfly.
Well, and they're over in Lake St. Clair, man. I used to date this chick that lived over on Lake St. Clair, and they were awful, man. So they're kind of like, they look like big mosquitoes, but they're about an inch long, and they got really long wings on them. Mayflies is what they call it. And they are, if you got a light turned on, there are thousands of them. Like literally just going in and out of a house, you get a couple hundred of them in your house.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, I had on my motorhome when they had a mayfly hatch up there and by Lake Superior. And them damn things were on the mirrors of the motorhome. Looked like I had like little fluttery things on the mirrors, so they peel them all off, and all their wings were stuck all over. But they came off a lot easier than love bugs. There's a lot less juice in them.
The musical group called themselves the Youpers have a song about being in the cabin and what they have a name for the mosquitoes, the big Youper mosquitoes, and how they'd have to run around inside their cabin and with a hammer and bend their beaks over, so and there was a mistake, because then there was enough of them there, they actually lifted the roof off the cabin. Yeah. I've been around those kind of mosquitoes when I lived in Alaska, but whoa.
Yeah.
One time in Lake Orion, which is over by going towards Detroit, we were at a contest there, and we stayed in a pop-up camper, and the mosquitoes were so bad, they had some kind of a damn hatch something, that when we were at, we killed about 100 of them just getting in the camper, but you could see them stuck to the screens on the camper, millions of them, mosquitoes trying to get in that damn camper there in Lake Orion.
Yep. Well, there's the old story they tell about up at Elmendorf Air Force Base in Anchorage, right during World War II, toward the end of it, that apparently 2 of those big mosquitoes landed on the Air Force Base there, and they'd fill them up with 500 gallons of avgas each before they realized they weren't B-25s. Old story from Alaska.
Yeah, I guess they're in Alaska. They said the caribou, it'll start a stampede that the mosquitoes are so bad.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and those love bugs, that was a brilliant scientist's idea of how to get rid of the mosquitoes in Florida. They imported them from somewhere. The only problem is nothing kills the love bug. Nothing eats them, nothing. And not only that, they don't eat mosquitoes.
That's kind of like Hawaii when I was over there in Pearl. They brought in the mongoose to kill all the snakes. Well, it worked. They got all the snakes killed, but now they're overrun with mongoose, and there's no natural predator for the mongoose over there. So they're running around like rats.
I've heard about that. I guess they ought to put up, like they did in California on crows, a bounty on them. The Alaskan mosquitoes, the worst ones are the ones that they come out in the spring while the snow's still on the ground. They've actually wintered or hibernated under the snow for the whole winter. And they come out and they're big and they're hungry, and they'll literally chase you.
Yeah.
They will literally chase you. And the later ones that hatch later are much smaller. And most people in Alaska, by the time summer's half over, they don't worry about wearing or getting any mosquito repellent or anything like that. I guess the body makes its own after enough onslaught.
Yeah.
They just leave you alone.
Well, how about there in Florida too, the kudzu?
That's in Tennessee, man.
Huh?
We got kudzu all over Tennessee. It's everywhere.
That was something they brought in there to Florida.
Japanese brought it in.
It grows about a foot. Grows about a foot a month, something like that.
People eat it here. You can order it in a restaurant in Nashville. Kudzu salad, man. No kidding.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta boil it because it's got nettles on it. It has nettles that'll hook into you. But if you boil it first, it's a thing, man. It's a delicacy, kudzu salad. But the stuff grows everywhere, man.
Yeah.
There is not enough
He's
people.
right. If you don't trim it back, you'll be covered up with it.
There's not enough people in this country to eat all of that I saw through the South, from Georgia to the Mississippi River.
We got There's a Tennessee State Park about halfway between here and Memphis. It's over in Jackson, Tennessee, and the name of the state park escapes me right now. But we camped over there several times. They got a really nice campground, a lake. They got a shooting range right there in the park. Tennessee gun range. But this thing is kudzu city. And it's actually quite beautiful to see it in its natural habitat. But it just grows on everything. All the
Covers everything up.
It
looks like Jumanji.
It looks like Jurassic Park when you go to this state park over there. It literally does. You expect to see a dinosaur like popping its head out every time. That's how over. And I wouldn't want to walk through it. You know, I wouldn't want to hunt in it. That's for sure.
So I have an airplane question. Peter, you made any progress on your airplane?
Airplanes, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is this for airplanes?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Bug forum.
I know bugs fly, but I want something with balsa wood on it.
Well, have you ever tried to put a control line on a June bug? It works.
I've heard of that. I've never done that. I don't have them out here.
Yeah.
Peter, have you done anything on your what's that plane called?
Saginaw.
Saginaw. Are you muted or what? I don't hear you.
Yeah, he's muted.
You're muted.
You're muted, Peter.
Still muted.
You're still muted. I see some wood, but you're not saying anything.
No sound.
You're still muted, Peter.
No
Can't hear you.
sound.
Speak louder.
Hey, Peter, shut up. You talk too much.
It's basically been sanding.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
Sanding the elevator
Nice.
edges down. Then doing the small stuff first. It's like turning around and taking my landing gear struts, getting my heat shrink on there, taking and taking some
Very nice. That looks good.
for the ultimately for the wheels, so that can turn around and then snap on to there.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I love that idea you gave me with the heat shrink. I can't wait to try it on my plane.
Yeah, but even if you're just not covering bare wire,
Yeah.
which I did for the fuselage, I'm not going to have anything covering this particular part,
Right.
but it's just to cover the bare wire and give it some color.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Is there shrink tubing?
When it comes to if you're putting on wheel
Yeah, heat
paint,
shrink
things
tubing.
like that, to put on a piece of heat shrink first, you can turn around and whatever you use, epoxy or CA or whatever, it's going to adhere way better to that heat shrink that's on there than just to the music wire itself.
You're doing a good job on that airplane.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's like when we had bell cranks out. I'm just don't know if I want to use the standard bell crank that came with the Brodak kit, or do I want to use the the phenolic?
Is that Tom Morris?
Yes.
That's a good bell crank, but you'll have to move that pivot hole way in from there.
Well, well, hold on 1 second. Well, what you would notice is that
All right, we're back up to 15 concurrent viewers. All right.
drill here,
Yeah, I know. You'll have to drill it.
but they have not drilled where your push rod is going to be. It's up to you to decide.
Yeah, that's a good idea. The problem is I don't know if you'll have clearance issues with that horn with so much of it sticking out there that you're not using or not.
I may save this one for the Sig Magnum. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah, and it may fit just fine in there. I don't know.
But what I have done, what I did with the Pathfinder up there, I had this this particular, basically the same bell crank. It's a nylon nylon Sig type bell crank. And what I did is I took this profile of the bell crank right here,
Right.
and I I transferred it to a piece of aluminum. I cut a piece of aluminum to that same profile.
Right.
And what I did was, it's easier if I take it out of the package. And somewhere on Stunt Hangar, I do have a close up of what I ultimately did with this, because it's the same bell crank. But you see how there's a step here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I did was I took a piece of aluminum and I basically epoxied it or CA'd it to this step down here. So what you ended up with, if I can turn around and find a piece, something like this. When I have the same profile, right? And I attach it to the bottom. See what happens when I attach it to the bottom of that step.
Right.
All of a sudden, I have this gap right in there.
Right.
And I can turn around then. What I did was I turned around. I did exactly the same thing that you see here.
Okay. Right. I see
I
that.
put a
Yeah.
bolt through it, and I was able to turn around and make upgrade this bell crank to a bell crank like that one, where I can turn around and I can put a eyelet here for the lead outs with a bolt
Right.
that goes straight through.
Right. I follow you. It's a good idea.
I'd probably put a couple, besides gluing that,
No.
I put a couple of bolts in there.
Oh yeah. First of all, like I said, I did exactly what's here. I had a bolt, an Allen head screw with a nut, so the bottom and the top were attached there, as well as in location here and here. That piece of aluminum was basically, this ended up being a single unitary piece when I was done with it, to be honest with you. So
Yeah.
you take this bell crank, like I said, this is a stock, whatever, Stig or whatever bell crank. And you
That's
can
a top
turn around
plate.
and take that profile, that profile there, cut it out of thin gauge of aluminum, and then you can put it around and almost laminate it straight to the top there, and get a bell crank that allows you to use this arrangement without having to get this particular bell crank.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I show the whole process when I did some of the build for the Pathfinder. You have to go back a couple of years and on Stunt Hangar to find it. But I showed exactly all the components, all the little bits and pieces that I put together to make that bell crank. Because
Guys, I have to go. I'm gonna say good night.
All right. Try and thanks for coming in.
that is what's installed up in there.
Yeah, it looks good, Peter. Yeah, I got a call.
The only other thing I did is that instead of using a bushing in the center, I found what I did was I cannibalized a 3.5 inch hard drive that had high speed bearings for the spindles on the hard disk drive. I cannibalized that bearing, that ball bearing. I put that in the center, so that bell crank has got a ball bearing instead of a bushing.
Oh, that's a good idea. I have destroyed all kinds of hard drives. Never thought about cannibalizing that high speed bearing out of it.
Oh yeah, with a spindle, you've got some really nice high speed bearings. Plus, a lot of them also have how would I say, it's not a bushing, but they're mounted in a almost in a pressed and fitting that's kind of like like a T, almost like a bushing with a bearing in the center of it. So yeah.
I always harvest those magnets. The magnets in those hard drives are really strong magnets.
Yep.
I always harvest those magnets out of. I never thought to harvest the bearing.
Bearings, yes. And then that's ultimately what I used, and they just turned out to be the perfect size to use in that bell crank. Whether a bell crank needs to have ball bearings, I don't know. But what
Yeah,
the
now
hell?
is this a laptop hard drive, or are you talking about a desktop hard drive? Gives you the right size.
It depends on the size that you need. I can't recall now off the top of my head whether it was an old 5-inch, desktop, Mac Store 80 gig or 60 gig hard drive that I use. But I pull them apart, and if I can figure out where my other thing is, I can find where they are. But laptop, the older mechanical laptop hard drives, oh, they're great for those bearings.
Well, I have bunches of those. I probably have about 10 of them behind me right now. So I have to harvest.
Not only the magnets, but the actual the bearings in there are even better.
And I also harvest the discs. I use them for make mirrors in my garage.
How about the new solid state hard drives?
Not the solid state.
You don't have any moving parts. Those are not going to work.
Well, guys, I got a call in night. Got a early
All right,
morning.
Jim.
All right, hey Jim, thanks for coming in.
As always.
Good night, Jim.
Good night,
Have a
Jim.
good week.
Hey, how do you quit this thing anyway?
Right down
Yeah, the red icon in the center. The phone.
Hang up.
Hang up.
All right. See you guys later.
See you later.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really missing Rusty right about now because I'm rebuilding a Golden Bee, 049 Golden Bee Cox,
Oh, I bet.
and I got an issue here.
Oh man.
So
Yeah.
this is the Golden Bee with the stunt tank, right? I got a loose pipe. The overflow is loose on the tank.
Right.
What did they use were these pressed in? It's not welded or soldered. I mean, it's an aluminum tank that's anodized, right?
Yeah.
So, John, what did they, was that just a press fit in there?
I think it was. You could use a little, not epoxy. What's that?
JB Weld?
Little JB Weld.
Okay. I mean, I got brand new gasket. I got brand new O-ring.
How's your read?
Well, that's the next thing I'm going to show you.
And we're getting up to 19 viewers now.
So there's the old reed. It's the old copper cross reed.
Yeah.
And it actually looks like it's got a split in it to me. But I do have, thank God, like 10 years ago, I bought a whole bunch of rebuild parts from Cox Engines out of Canada. I've got some of their Teflon reeds.
Uh-huh.
So I can replace that. The old fuel line is pretty hard. But
Yeah, that's that neoprene line. That's
well, I've got actual Cox fuel line, and the spring is still salvageable there, so I can still salvage that. The only real issue, I mean, I can replace all the gaskets and the O-ring and the reed. I just need to get that overflow tube. I guess JB Weld is the only way to do it, huh?
Well, that or if you get that new Aluma weld, you see it advertised, you can solder that aluminum with that Aluma weld.
Yeah. That's probably a good idea, but it's not going to work because I got to have this motor ready.
You talking about that aluminum rod?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you got to heat that up to 700 degrees. Will that tank take that?
Probably not.
it'll ruin the anodizing.
Yeah, it'll ruin the anodizing, but it's not going to hurt the aluminum.
I'm just trying to put together a decent Cox with a stunt tank on it because when we were in Detroit, Ed Breeze had a Cox 049 airplane that he built out of a Little Caesars pizza box.
Yeah.
But this was an airfoil wing. This was cardboard, but it was only like 10 inches across, and he had the cardboard folded back on itself for an airfoil, and then just a firewall and a boom with a tail. And Sam must have flew that thing 8 times when we got done with the contest. He was just out there and he was like, Daddy, can I build something like that when we get home? I was like, yeah. I'm like, I'll get a motor ready for you. And I don't know if we're going to do the pizza box thing. We might do a platter, the Osborne platter, the circular one with the paint sticks and all that. But I want to get this engine put back together with him because it's time for him to learn how to start engines and stuff like that. And I figure what better way, put him together an 049 with a spring starter, give him a quart of fuel and a battery and send him in the backyard with the neighborhood kids and let them figure this stuff out, man.
And Mike, you can build one of these. It's a Leonard Skinner plane.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, quick on you, Ed. Hang on, Ed. Don't put it away yet, Ed.
I'm going to go for something a little bit lighter than that.
Oh, I built this when I was, 12, 13. But it's broke all the pieces now, but.
Oh, very cool.
Center.
Why?
Well, you can tell.
No, I know it broke.
The true audio aficionado right now, Ed, is pulling his hair out, seeing what you did to that vinyl record.
Oh, it was all messed up before I did that.
I know. I know, but you know how they are. For them, vinyl is king.
Oh yeah, but I used the center hole. The center hole is where I put my.
Okay. Wow, that is very cool.
And that's just little fiberglass strips for hinges. But it flew like a combat plane because it's all wing and it was squirrely.
Interesting.
Little Cub 049.
Very cool. Yeah, I don't remember ever seeing a platter like that.
The first one I built I put landing gear on it. And of course, when it run out of gas, they don't glide, so it just kind of fell out of the sky and snapped it right behind the engine. So the second one I built, I didn't put landing gear on it. But I've had that for probably 40 years now.
All right. Yeah, I agree with you, Dennis. You control guys are good people. Absolutely.
I put in an order from Brodax Saturday morning. It was shipped 1:53 Saturday afternoon, and I got it today.
Wow!
I mean, all it was a couple of things of super glue and some super fill, or some CA and some super glue fill. I was kind of disappointed when I opened the box because I wasn't expecting it to be this small. I was, it didn't have a size, how much it.
Yeah.
For $20, and I thought, okay, I'll get me some super fill. Well, that right there is not very much.
I know. Probably doesn't weigh anything either, right?
No, it don't weigh nothing, but still, I mean, the picture does, their description has no.
I had no idea it was that small because I have a big size container of superfill I bought from a airplane supply place.
Yeah, Air Spruce and Wicks, they sell them, but they're the 20 ounce. I think it's a 20 ounce tub of the resin or the filler, and then like 12 ounces of hardener.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
one thing about it is, though, is that depends on how much you build. That stuff goes just like a regular epoxy. It goes bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I've already had 2 of the big super fills go bad on me.
Yep.
Because I didn't use it fast enough. And I doubt if you'll use all of that, because I've had that go bad on me. It was almost gone, but it wasn't completely gone. So
yeah, it's got a shelf life unopened for 2 years.
Yeah. So it depends on how much you build and how much you use.
Right. Mine's probably gone bad then, Steve.
Well,
Huh?
see, I'll use all this, I'm sure, but it was just disappointing when I opened that box up and it was that little bitty tub.
Yeah,
But
everything's
no,
gone up, man.
Sparky, he could use a 5-gallon bucket of that stuff,
Oh yeah,
and it wouldn't go bad for him.
Who's that?
Sparky.
Oh yeah. But I don't think Sparky would use that much. He doesn't build that way.
But I mean, he builds so many airplanes that he's always, his last video series, he ran out of it. He had
Yeah.
to make more or something.
yeah, and
But,
he's got the big quart jar.
yeah.
Yeah, he's built so many planes, Steve, that I think I started my airplane, and when he started, I'm not sure if it was the smaller what's that racing plane? That small plane he made, that first one.
The Tucker?
Yeah, the Tucker Special. I was building my fuselage, and now he's built like so many planes. He's building a new fuselage, and now I'm kind of caught up with him. It's like 3 planes, you know.
Does anyone know why
He started all over.
Meerkat?
Remember what the turtle told the rabbit?
Yeah.
What was that?
Oh, wins every time.
Yeah.
Did Sparky say why he stopped on the Bearcat?
He didn't have room.
Yeah, he didn't have room because he needs to. Plane becomes a one-piece plane pretty quickly, and the planes he's building now, he's building a wing panel at a time, and he has it in pieces in his small place. So the Bearcat is just too big to be in one piece in that small place, and that's why.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you guys, I wanted to say something to those on the audience. The Golden State Stunt Championship has been canceled for 2020. In part, COVID, and the other part is the fires, the air quality, and all that. So we'll have to see the Golden State Championships in 2021. And I should have my plane trimmed by then.
Ain't no fires near you, are they?
I'm actually pretty fortunate. The fires aren't too close to me. I have had experience with fires out here where I've had to been evacuated, but so far it's good, and the air quality out here where I live is fine. So there was a concern by Dennis B on the chat about that, and yeah, I'm safe, you guys.
What part of Cali do you live in?
Deep south.
I live in Escondido, which is a little bit north of San Diego, like 20 minutes north of San Diego.
Yeah.
I
got anybody that's in San Diego.
Charles, I talked to a fella on my ham radio most every morning. He's at Palos Verdes, there on the peninsula.
Uh-huh.
And the smoke has been very thick there. I mean, extremely thick there. So, and they're on the seaside of most of the fires.
Wow. Yeah, I'm very fortunate, very blessed. I feel sorry for other people who've been evacuated or lost their their home and their valuables and all that kind of stuff. It's I had a friend who lost a fire out here in a fire not too far from where I live, and he lost everything. It's terrible.
I read where they arrested several people for starting some fires.
Oh, that's good. I mean, if anybody started a fire, they should arrest them. I know that there was one fire I think was started by a reveal party. You know, that when you're going to reveal what sex the baby is.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was accidental, but they couldn't extinguish the fire once it got going. You know, it's been so hot here for months, and so we have a lot of kindling, a lot of fuel, and it's just there's a lot of fuel to burn, unfortunately, because we had a lot of rain last year as well. So there's a lot of overgrowth out there.
Well, I've been a firefighter for 30 years here in Greenbrier, and what people don't know is fires like that will actually create their own weather.
Yep.
Yeah.
They will create their own firestorms when the term firestorm, I mean that's what it is. It creates a lot of updrafts, which creates wind, and the wind fuels the fire, which makes it bigger, which creates more wind, and it just gets to the point to where you can't hardly stop them. You just got to let them burn out.
One of the problems they have in California is they haven't cleared their underbrush for years.
Right.
And the underbrush is like top grade tinder.
Really?
Oh yeah.
And
I was going to bring that up, John. That yeah, a lot of the environmental groups don't want to allow the cutting and the clearing and the access roads that they need to be able to let guys get out there and fight fires. So it's kind of their own making a little bit through the way it's been managed.
You're absolutely right. It hasn't been managed well. And another guy I talk to on my ham radio every day lives up in the mountains, and they've had D9 cats and all that all around this place, cutting roads, and now they're putting things back. They had to cut in a hurry when they were fighting the fire in the area, but they got the fire pretty much under control. He says that every once in a while they'll have a flare up and they'll get in there and knock it down, but they had to take out his irrigation, his water supply, and everything else when they're running through there.
Howdy. How are you, Charles?
He's got it under control, and they saved his house.
And
the only good thing about taking all the underbrush out is that then when the mudslide comes, there's nothing to hold the mud into place.
Right.
So it's kind of a deal. Yeah, you can take the underbrush out for the fires.
The mudslides.
Mudslides.
Well, they got so many trees that have died. They've got the Japanese beetle infection, and it's taken out a lot of the trees in the forest, and they leave them standing, the dead trees standing, instead of harvesting them, taking them out, and doing something worthwhile with the trunks. They leave them standing there. They're doing the same thing here in Utah. You go into the woods here, and 50% of the forest are dead trees standing.
Yeah, North Carolina.